For decades, we've had this huge problem. Some of the most important human skills, the things that really make or break success, have been pretty much impossible to measure. But now, some really groundbreaking research from Google is proposing a whole new way to solve this, using AI to finally measure the unmeasurable.
I mean, seriously, think about it. How do you actually put a number on someone's ability to collaborate in a meeting, or how creative they are when you're all brainstorming? It's messy, it's subjective, and it is a massive headache for everyone from teachers to hiring managers. And this is the exact problem this new research tackles head-on. So there's actually a name for these kinds of abilities: durable skills. And they're called that for a reason. Unlike knowing a specific piece of software that might be obsolete in a few years, these core human abilities, they endure. They're literally the foundation of success in almost any job, but they're also the absolute hardest to quantify. All right, so here is how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll dig into why these skills are so tough to measure. Then, we'll introduce the big idea here, AI teammates. After that, we'll meet the secret sauce of the whole system, something called the Executive LLM. We'll look at the data to see if this thing actually works, and finally, we'll explore what this could all mean for the future. Okay, let's start with the core challenge, the dilemma that has been stumping educators and employers for years and years. And this right here gets to the heart of the problem. On one hand, you've got real-world interaction. It's totally authentic, totally natural, but it's messy, it's inconsistent, and it's basically impossible to grade fairly. On the other hand, you've got standardized tests. Sure, they're measurable and fair, but they often feel completely artificial and don't really tell you how someone will perform in real life. You're always stuck sacrificing one for the other. So, the million-dollar question is, how do you get the best of both worlds? Well, this is where this incredible new approach from Google Research comes into play. They're proposing a system that aims to be both authentic and measurable.
And look, this isn't just some theory they cooked up. It's all based on a really detailed research paper from Google and their academic partners. They've actually developed and tested a full framework for this new kind of assessment.
The basic idea is actually surprisingly simple. A person jumps into a chat-based scenario where they have to solve a problem by talking with a couple of AI teammates. Then, when it's all over, a completely separate AI evaluator comes in, analyzes the entire conversation transcript, and scores them on specific skills, like conflict resolution or creative problem solving. But hang on, because this is where it gets really, really clever. See, those AI teammates, they aren't just your standard run-of-the-mill chatbots. The whole system is powered by something they call the Executive LLM. Okay, but this raises a really obvious question, right? Let's say you're being tested on your conflict resolution skills. What happens if everyone in the chat just agrees with each other? You could finish the whole test without ever getting a chance to actually demonstrate that skill. There'd be zero evidence to grade you on.
And that is the big difference. A standard AI would just passively go along for the ride. But the Executive LLM, it has a mission. It is specifically designed to actively and intelligently steer the conversation to create the exact scenarios needed for a person to show off a specific skill. It doesn't just respond, it directs the whole show.
The best way to think about it is like this. A normal chatbot is like a passenger in your car just along for the ride. The Executive LLM is like a really smart driving instructor. It's not just going to wait around and hope you randomly decide to do a three-point turn. No, it's going to say, okay, pull over here. I want to see you do a three-point turn. It creates the exact situation needed to get the evidence. And this part is just fascinating. We're actually getting a look under the hood here at the Executive LLM's internal monologue. Before it even generates a response for one of the AI teammates, it's thinking to itself, okay, I need to observe if the participant can propose a strategy to move past this disagreement. It's consciously and deliberately creating a moment of friction just to test the user's skills. Incredible. So the theory is brilliant, right? A system that feels totally natural but is secretly being steered to generate perfect, measurable evidence. But the real question is, does it actually work in practice? Let's take a look at the data from their study. All right, first things first. Does this whole steering thing actually make a difference? Do the conversations that are guided by an Executive LLM actually produce more useful data than just letting simple, unsteered AIs chat away? And the answer is a big, resounding yes. Just look at this. The big bar shows the huge amount of measurable evidence that was generated when the Executive LLM was steering the conversation. Now compare that to the tiny little bar from the unsteered AIs. The takeaway here is just crystal clear. Steering is a game changer. It dramatically increases the amount of evidence you can collect.
Okay, so it gathers way more evidence. Great. But that leads to the next huge question. Is the AI evaluator's grading any good? I mean, can a machine really understand the nuances of a human conversation and score it as reliably as a trained human expert?
And here it is. This is the real punchline. The bars on the left show how often two human experts agree with each other when they're grading the same conversation. The bars on the right show the agreement between the AI evaluator and a human expert. They are practically identical. Let that sink in. This means adding the AI to the grading process is just as reliable as adding a second trained human grader.
And the researchers themselves spell it out perfectly. They say the agreement was so similar that it suggests automatic rating is a scalable alternative to human rating. That's the key. This is what could allow this kind of deep, nuanced assessment to be rolled out to thousands, maybe even millions of people.
And this is what it all leads to for the person taking the assessment. It's not just some black box that spits out a number. The system gives you clear quantitative scores, but it also provides qualitative feedback with specific quotes from your conversation as examples. It's both actionable and totally transparent.
So let's zoom out for a second. Pulling this all together, what does this all actually mean? Why is this more than just a cool research project? Well, it really boils down to 3 huge wins. 1, you get authentic interaction that's way more natural than a multiple choice test. 2, you get reliable scoring that's just as good as a human expert. And 3, you get massive scalability. Basically, you're getting the quality of a human-led simulation at the cost of an automated test.
And when you think about it, the potential applications are just massive. Companies could use this for hiring. It could completely change corporate training. It could help universities see beyond just test scores and admissions, or even give students a safe place to practice these critical skills.
And that leaves us with this one last, pretty profound question. For the very first time, we might have a tool that can reliably measure the skills we always thought were uniquely and unquantifiably human. And if that's really true, what new things are we going to learn? Not just about our jobs, but about ourselves.